Game of this first weekend of fixtures, Robbie. It's Brighton against Chelsea.
It is, Jules. He's Brighton boss Graham Potter, who has been speaking ahead of Monday's match against Chelsea.
We had a lot of players last year that were making their first seasons in the Premier League. The likes of Neil Maupay, the likes of Leo Trossard, the likes of Tariq Lamptey, Stephen Alzati, Aaron Connolly, as a few examples. So I think they'll be better for the experience. And then, of course, we want to try and attack better as a team. We want to try and score more goals, try and win more games. Again, it sounds easy when I speak now, but again, that is also the challenge for us. The intention's clear. They want to compete. They want to compete at the top. I think they had a really good season last year in terms of finishing fourth with an embargo, with introducing young players and still managing to get into the Champions League spots is really good. But I'm guessing for a club like Chelsea and for somebody like Frank, who's competed at the top for all his career, that they want to push on and they want to try to compete for the title. And that's pretty much what the intention looks like.
Well, it's Brighton's fourth season in the Premier League and the second season under Graham Potter. A lot of the fans are kind of looking at this season and maybe thinking, is this the year that Brighton can, of course, survive again, but maybe push that little bit further up the table? Do you think they can? I
think they can, actually. I do. I like what I see with Graham Potter. I like the way he's developed the team. I think it's a big ask. We went in there. Obviously, they played in a certain system, certain way with Chris Hughton. And it takes time to develop a new system and to try and play in a different way. And to do that in a team which would be expected to be towards the end of the bottom of the table is tough. And I thought the way they restarted when we came back with Project Restart, the way they went about it, I thought was superb. They obviously set the table by that win against Arsenal. And then they just kicked on from there and they played some great football. I actually thought they were one of the teams who benefited from the fans not being in the stadium because I think they felt less pressure because of the way they play. I think the fans would have been more anxious, in terms of obviously we need to win this game, we need to get these points to get the table. I think without the fans being in the stadium, I think it might have helped them and benefited them a little bit more. But I think I like what Graham Potter's done. I like the addition of Adam Lallana, for example. And whether or not he can play every game, I don't know. But he will be a lieutenant in the dressing room. You can see why he's gone there and what he'll bring. Ben White's a fine young defender. I think they're refusing offers for, but I think other big clubs might come in before the end of the window. So they're going to have to put him in the team as well. So I can see the transitions that he's making. Lamptey, I think, by the way, is superb right back. Absolutely. I mean, Chelsea are really upset they lost him, even though they got Reece James. I think losing Lamptey was a real blow for them because he's a real talent. But it's like there's lots of positives at Brighton. I could see them finishing 10th, 11th, actually, if things go well for them.
Hey, Juice, fans like you, Juice, not putting pressure on the team.
I'm not putting any pressure on them. I'm just happy that Brighton managed to keep hold of Lewis Dunk as well. Maybe
not pressure, maybe more the anxiety of the supporters.
I know what you mean. All right, well, what's Frank Lampard had to say about his new signings and his first game of the season? Let's hear from the Chelsea boss now.
And I understand and I hope that Chelsea fans are excited because, I'm not going to lie, we've brought in what we feel are a high level of player that are going to improve our squad. At the same time, I also know what it takes to win Premier Leagues. And I know that as a player, and I know when I look around us, and when you look at the teams that have dominated in recent years, and particularly your eye draws towards Liverpool and Manchester City, they are a story that has run over a few years. In their own paces at different times, but in terms of recruitment, in terms of coaching, in terms of improvement, I'm guessing on the training pitch that then relates to the pitch. So it's not a simple story that bringing players must win the league. That doesn't work that way. So we hope we will improve. I know expectations will be there. I won't hide away from those. My expectations this year are on a different level from last year because of the different situation. So we want to improve, but we won't jump too far ahead of ourselves. I didn't come here just to bring academy players into the team and say I've made debuts for this many players. No, I came here to try and win. Last year we weren't able to recruit in a big way. I wasn't able to bring in players that I felt would maybe help the way I want us to go, the style that maybe I wanted to play. And this year I have been able to have some impact on that, but more importantly the club has made decisions to bring in players. So it changes the landscape, yes. I'm excited by that as much as feeling the pressure. And we're ready to go, ready to work.
Frank saying now the club bringing in players changes the landscape. We've seen him do so well last year. Didn't buy any players and finish in the Champions League spot. But now there's even more pressure. There was pressure on Frank last season. Didn't get with Derby, took that job, icon of the football club. There was pressure on him. But now with that recruitment, there's pressure on him to challenge.
Well, I think first of all, with the transfer ban, he's created wealth for the football club, hasn't he? In terms of all those young players playing, Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham and Reece James and some more. I think he probably created a couple $100 million worth of wealth for the football club. Plus, you had the Eden Hazard money, so they had that to spend. So I think they've been in a position where they could spend, and they needed to. Biggest issue, I think, was the defence, and I think they spend a lot of money on great players. Kai Havertz will be a special player, but at 21, is he ready to be that guy that they need? I think it's going to take time. Timo Werner is special, lethal finisher, absolutely love him. And Ziyech, I think, reminds me of Angel Di Maria, amazing player. So I think they're in a good place. I just think they spend a lot of money, and I'm not sure. I think they were fortunate that so many other teams were poor last season. I mean, how many Premier League games did they lose? 11?
Yeah, they lost.
See those two players, Havertz and Werner, you know well. Where's their best positions?
Well, Havertz is a 10, really. But he played as a false 9 at times and did incredibly well, can play off the right, even though he's not the quickest. But he's 6'2". He's great in the air. He's got a great physical frame, and technically he's really special. Timo Werner, obviously, is a bit Fernando Torres at Liverpool. That type, explosive, brilliant on the counter-attack and then lethal finisher. But I think Thiago Silva, he's the one. Even though he's on a free, he's going to be potentially the most valuable one.
When you look at the depth in that squad, though, all those new signings, plus the players who are already in this squad, Frank Lampard's going to have a challenge on his hands, keeping them all happy, isn't he? When you look at the depth, there's almost 3 players per position that can get into the starting 11.
If I was him, I'd worry more about keeping the owner happy, I've got to say. I mean, you don't spend all that money without wanting to challenge. I think the pressure is on, absolutely. He's pushed very hard for signings. The club have brought in signings. It's interesting which ones were more the club signings, which ones were his signings. And he's alluded to that himself. The club have done that, which is fine, absolutely fine. But there is pressure in that. Yes, he's going to have to keep the players happy. I don't think as a character, Frank Lampard will worry about that too much. I think he's tough enough to think, no, look, listen, I've won things before with this club. I know how to win things. You do it my way, sort of thing. I think with the younger players, what was interesting to me was by the end of last season, if you look at it, he was only really turning to 2 of them. It was only really Reece James and Mason Mount. A lot of the other ones he'd moved away from because, okay, give them their chance, but he hadn't perhaps got what he wanted out of them. So he's ruthless enough to say, okay, I'm taking you out now. So I think I don't think he'll worry too much about them. So I think he will do it his way. But I think he's got to be not careful, but he's got to be aware, and I'm sure he is aware because he's been at Chelsea long enough as a player to know what happens there, that he's got to keep them challenging. And if they don't challenge, the owner will turn around and say, look, we've spent this money, and he won't listen when it says it's going to take time.
To challenge, though, talk about great defences, great goalkeepers win leagues.
Well, they're buying a new goalkeeper.
So
definitely.
that's what they need.
Mendy's coming in. Yeah.
Well, if I just think back to those great Chelsea teams, Cech, John Terry, Makelele, Frank, Drogba, the whole spine of the team was flawless. Leaders. I still look at Frank's team. I would have signed all those players if I was sporting director. Really good young players. But I'm not sure who the leader of the team is. Kante's one of the great players, but he's so quiet. Kovacic, I know he's quite quiet, So all of a sudden, who's the leader in the back line? I think Frank, he's built a really got a good group of players here, but I'm not sure if he looks at it, he thinks, where's his JT? Where's his Frank? Where's his Drogba? And I think that's where they could, as much as I like everything he's done, I think, again, you only really know teams when they're struggling, and you need leaders then.
Did you listen to Chelsea, when it was obviously no fans the same, but you taught...
Didn't go to Stamford Bridge, bizarrely.
How team was, vocal, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The vocal, were Chelsea
Were
vocal?
they one of the loud teams?
Yeah.
No.
Not at all?
No.
There's Owen's points there,
Yeah, they weren't. Frank was, but I didn't really. I don't remember listening to Chelsea. Azpilicueta certainly was one. But beyond that, no, not really. You're absolutely right. I don't think they're a loud team. I don't think they're a team that make a lot of noise on the pitch. But Owens had touched on Thiago Silva. I think that's possibly where he comes into this a little bit. Doesn't speak English, but is having intensive English lessons right now. He wants to learn English because he knows the value of communicating in the dressing room. 35 years old, but will almost be seen as that lieutenant on the pitch again. I think almost they want him as a senior player to talk to and to mentor some of the other players as well, because he's won things. He's been successful and he's in good shape. He's in good physical shape. It's a big ask.
He was brilliant in the Champions League final.
It's a big ask for him to come in, but it was a little bit of a no-brainer. Free transfer, okay, the wages, but it's a 2-year deal. It's not terrible. So it's a doable deal that might just work to bring that bit of experience into that back line. Because you look at those defenders, and as you say, Azpilicueta, yes, okay, fine. Chilwell's quite quiet. Rudiger doesn't really say very much. Christensen's very quiet. You know, Tomori's out of the picture really now. There isn't an awful lot of players there you're thinking like they're leaders in that back line.
All right, time for another quick break. But after this, we will be going around the grounds to preview the final 3 matches